Yeah, I know. I'm ready for it, but it's all right. I mean, I think at least I've proven myself a little last year to back some people off, so maybe they'll be able to accept it a little bit better this year. We'll see. Probably not. You're right. Probably not. Oh, probably not. Yes, the Chris Sims Top 40 Quarterback Countdown continues. Today we'll be doing 10 through 6. I'm sure I'll ruffle some feathers. I'm sure I'll make some people happy. I know one thing for sure. My old work buddy Ahmed Fareed will be happy nonetheless. Man, what? You tightened up the camera shot. You got the beard trimmed. You got
Yep.
a haircut. I mean, wow, making moves this week. Bobby, big time over there.
I never need to go into the office ever again. We haven't seen each other in probably like over 100 days now. We'll never
Yeah,
see each
something
other
like
again
that.
because I've perfected the home office to the point where NBC will just say, just stay home for the rest of time.
I have not, because I don't know if you've been told, but I've had many technical difficulties during live TV, and I've had to swear and cuss and do all that. Now, one thing I will say, okay? I mean, everything looks great. I've really been a big fan of like your backdrop more times than not. What's the stupid license plate hanging behind you? I mean, what is that?
Off kilter a little bit. Yeah, that's debatable. You're right. Oh, Kristen's taking it full right now. So you see, there's the whole layout. I think when you see, there's a
I
couple
can't
pictures
see
there.
it
There's
because
another
I'm in
license
the
plate.
box right now. I
Yeah.
can't see it. My face is actually covering it. So what kind of license is that there? I'm blocked. I can't see it.
It's an old Michigan license plate. There's a California
Okay.
license plate in the lower left, too. There's some old pictures. There's a Barry Sanders picture alluding a Green Bay Packer up in the upper left-hand corner. So if you saw the whole thing, you'd be a lot more impressed, perhaps. But yeah, maybe the one off-kilter Michigan license plate wasn't the best idea ever, Chris.
Well, I like your support of the state. It's a great state and all that. It just, I'm just trying to figure it out. I knew you had all those great things there behind you. You're such a perfectionist in so many ways. So I just was surprised by that. That's cool. I'm down for that. That's a good answer. You good? You ready? You ready to do this? All right. Hey, we had a little technical glitch there. You good? I mean, we talked about your
Yeah.
setup and how awesome you are, and you don't want to ever go back to NBC and you want to work at home. And like the powers that be, froze your screen, and now we're back in business. You doing good?
They did. Oh, they go, oh, you never want to come on again? Okay, your internet connection is now trash. I think we're
Bam,
good.
gone. All
I
right, so
think
what
we're
are we
good,
going to get
Chris.
into here? Where are we going to go? We're going to start with the
So
homies
this
and
is a good
questions.
one. Yeah, let's go through the whole rundown. You mentioned it. We're going 10 through 5, so we're getting into the top 10 of the Chris Sims quarterback countdown. And I think everyone's doing the math, and they're like, who's left here? Who's still left off? I think there's going to be a surprise for some people. So we'll get to 10 through 6 coming up here
Right.
on this podcast. We'll do the homies reacting though first before we get into that, because there's if you're watching on YouTube, the last few that you revealed: Roethlisberger at 14, Kirk Cousins at 13, Kyler Murray, who I really like, at 12, Ryan Tannehill, another guy who I really like, getting some love later in his career here. Maybe should have got it earlier in his career at number 11.
Yep,
So
correct.
you ready for some reaction here, Chris?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start with Kyler Murray. This one comes from Magogo1. And he asks, what made Kyler's rookie year so special? 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, a quarterback rating in the 80s. Definitely a promising year, but he was not exactly lighting the league on fire. And what I would say to Magogo1 is, didn't you listen to the podcast? I thought you laid it out pretty well with Paul the other day and all the reasons why Kyler's numbers may not have matched his talent in year number 1.
Yeah, right. Again, we can't look at numbers all the time, right, Ahmed? I mean, hopefully that's something you're learning too. The context of the situation has something to do with the numbers a lot of the time. First off, yeah, I mean, I understand when you look at it at that base level, wins, losses, stats, you don't go, holy cow, wow, that's unbelievable. But when I tell you that, he was also a big part of their running game and their offense, and I believe their running game was a top 10, top 12 running offense in football, yet no 1,000-yard rusher or big-time runner to speak of until Kenyon Drake got there. But a big part of their running game success was because of Kyler Murray and the fact that you have to worry about him scrambling or keeping the ball or a quarterback design run. And like I said, from the get-go, everything was formulated and orchestrated around Kyler Murray. let alone he had the worst defense in football. It's not like he had a bunch of high-level players around him to make things happen. Christian Kirk, certainly on the way up. We know Larry Fitzgerald on the way down, might be his last year in football. So he didn't necessarily have the talent and the coaching staff and everything there to set him up to just set the world on fire, let alone he played in the best division in football as well. But when you just break him down specifically, there's very few bad decisions. There's very few missed throws in general. And then there's plenty of big time throws. Oh, wow, nobody's open. And he just created a lot. So, and then let alone the physical ability of being fast, a great scrambler, one of the quickest releases in the game, one of the strongest arms in the game. So I just think all of those things lend me to believe that think, yeah, he's going to be dancing around one of the top 10 quarterbacks in football this year. So I know it's a little bit of a projection, but I just think from day one, Ahmed, and I think you know this, he was asked to be the squad right away. Hey, we're going to put the ball in your hands, and it's going to be you, and you go for it every play, while a new head coach was trying to learn, okay, here's my offense, but I need more to it, and I'm going to grow the offense and try to grow as a play caller in the NFL too. And that's why they hit a few hiccups here and there, but the talent's undeniable.
I thought you made a really good point, really interesting point that I don't think I've heard you make too many times. But you were comparing him and Drew Brees. You got Drew Brees at 16. You got Kyler Murray at 12. And you said, who do you think would perform better in that Arizona offense last year? Who has better numbers? Who wins more games? Drew Brees or Kyler Murray? And I really thought of it, and I was like, you're right. It's like Drew Brees in that offense does not seem like a dynamic offense. Kyler Murray, you're scared about the big play. Every other play, I watched him early on come back against the Detroit Lions when they just basically said, Kyler Murray, you got to take over the game and bring us back.
Right.
And he was able to do that where Drew Brees is at a point in his career. I don't know if he was in that same situation as Kyler, if he would have been able to do that.
No, I think thank you for that support there. Exactly right. And and then if you put Kyler Murray on the New Orleans Saints, again, maybe you lose a little bit of completion percentage and efficiency that way. Hey, we know Drew Brees is awesome at that, but he brings a whole nother skill set and dynamic to that offense that Drew Brees is just not capable of at this point in his career. And yeah, it's not a knock on Drew Brees. I'm not trying to say that. But, again, when you face the Arizona Cardinals last year as a defensive coordinator, what you did right away was go, man, wait, how are we going to contain Kyler Murray? What are we going to do here? Man, they're just spreading the field out and letting him take the ball and saying, go make things happen. Go make it happen. And, again, that's all predicated because he's special and he has special talent. You can't just say that with any rookie quarterback or any quarterback in general. And then how it makes defenses adjust just because of one guy. Their whole defensive game plan has to be like, we have to worry about containing him in the pass rush. We have to worry about when we blitz him because of quarterback design runs, or he might just take off and scramble and we're going to have nobody there. We might need to have a quarterback spy on him. He's a great deep ball thrower and he can really push the ball down the field. We can't always leave our corners man to man and worry about, let them be on an island where he can beat us deep and all that. So all these things, everything is predicated on one person. And yes, it didn't always look great stats and win-wise, but they're nothing to me without Kyler Murray, and that says something to me.
And as you mentioned, too, he was careful with the football. It wasn't like he's one of those rookie quarterbacks that's making a lot of silly mistakes. And one question I had about him was his leadership, but he seems like a super confident dude who has that in him. And so I think he's answered a lot of those questions. Kyler Murray at number 12 on your list. One spot ahead of him, you had Ryan Tannehill at 11. And this one comes from Bills Mafia 1985. He says, take Derrick Henry away. And how well do you think Ryan Tannehill will do? So I think that's a fair point. I mean, you have a quarterback who had one of the strongest, at least down the stretch, the strongest running game in all of football. That certainly helps a quarterback, especially if you do some play action passes, especially if you don't throw that often. You catch the defense off guard, perhaps, because they're loading up on Derrick Henry. So how much did Derrick Henry help Ryan Tannehill do what he did last year?
Well, yeah, there's no doubt. There's no denying that, right? That was the key part of the formula. But my bigger point or bigger, picture is that Ryan Tannehill was finally in an offense that fit his skill set. One of the things I tried to say when he was with the Miami Dolphins, he was in what I would call the Peyton Manning Denver Broncos dink and dunk offense, right? A lot of short throws, bubble screens, all these things, except Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, Wes Welker, the other tight end, Julius Thomas, a really good offensive line, and a Super Bowl defense weren't there to help him out. Other than that, it was the same, right? So, that offense, Tannehill being very accurate and a pure thrower, one of the negatives I'll say is he doesn't have one of the quickest releases in football, so that didn't suit him. He's not like a Breeze or a Aaron Rodgers who can just, set HUD, get the ball, and it says shoot, and it's almost like they flick it out of their hands. Okay, so that didn't suit him, let alone the talent around him was nothing. Like I've argued before and tried to say with this, I underestimated him. I really came around towards the end of 2 years ago where I went, man, I started digging in and go, man, Ryan Tannehill had a much better career down in Miami than I think we've all given him credit for when you start to really dig into it. And then you added no running game, no defense, way below average offensive line and pass protection. I mean, one of the worst in football his whole time there. Nobody at wide receiver to back anybody off. And then when you can't run the ball and it's a short passing game, well, good luck with your numbers and you looking like a superstar. And again, so that have to take it into account. Now he gets to a team that I said that one was the Peyton Manning Denver Broncos offense. Now he gets to a team that plays more like the Peyton Manning Indianapolis Colts, where, okay, yeah, we're going to run the ball with Edgerrin James, and then we're going to stress you there, and then we're going to get a bunch of play actions off of that. And when you give Tannehill some space and some time, I mean, he's as accurate as it gets with throws down the field. And that's my big thing, Ahmed. Yes, I understand the question, the point, Derrick Henry, but, I would say that pass game there is not reinventing the wheel, nor is there great talent there either. I like A.J. Brown. I think it's all going in the right direction. He's going to be awesome, but he never missed opportunities to strike. When somebody was open for a touchdown, he hit it. When guys weren't open down the field and it was really tight coverage, he hit it. So he really capitalized on those things and did more than what the system could deliver at times because he's in a system finally that we see can kind of accentuate and show us how good his skills are and how they fit in the proper offense. And as anybody that does football, yeah, you got to be in the proper scheme to utilize the guy properly. Offense, defense, we can go in a bunch of different ways. If we put Aaron Donald in a 3-4 defense and asked him to play nose tackle and two-gap people, I promise you he wouldn't be Aaron Donald. He would not be the same guy if he was asked to do the things Vince Wilfork did for, like, the New England Patriots. So there we go. The best defensive player in the world, you start to ask him to do things that aren't in his skill set, he won't be. Sure. So I just think that's sometimes I misjudge and misevaluate because of that. And I think we all do a little bit.
And being able to hit those big throws when you're only throwing a handful of times per game, as you mentioned, is also a skill. And
it's not easy.
If you're throwing 50 times per game. So Ryan Tannehill at 11. I mentioned the fact that people are doing the math here, Chris, and they're trying to figure out, okay, who's left, who has been left off. Here's an optimistic Colts fan, Colts Cap Kyle, who asks you, or who says, so Jacoby Brissett is in the top 10. So he has just been waiting this whole time for Jacoby Brissett, who you did like a lot last year. I remember he was 31 on this list. And then after the first few games, you thought, man, I like what I see from Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
He gets hurt.
I made some comments to say he was a top 10. Really?
Yes.
At that point.
He comes back. He comes back. He's not the same guy. You can maybe chalk that up to just the injury, and he just was not fully healthy when he got back. But now it appears, unless you do have him in the top 10, he's dropped off your top 40. Why is that?
No, it's just, the way it fell apart at the end of the year to me was like really concerning. There was moments early in the year where I chalked it up to, okay, he's still an early starter, but he overcame some of those moments with some great late game theatrics and big throws to where I went, okay, yeah, the game has a few rough spots, but he made up for it and he'll get better. The game will become smoother. He'll start to learn, the offense and feel more comfortable and manage the game the proper way. But, man, he came back from injury, Ahmed, and it's like he went back to being a rookie in the NFL. Decision-making was pitiful. Some of the throws were pitiful. And again, yeah, if he was a top 32 quarterback, I think they probably would have kept him as the starter. But I think they saw some of the things I saw where they went, man, I don't know if I can trust this again for year 2. And he literally was right around 39, 40, 41 for me. He ended up being number 41, if anybody wants to know, full transparency. He was the guy that just missed the list. Yeah, he would be number 41.
Okay, so Jacoby Brissett is out of the top 40. Who knows? Maybe Phillip Rivers, something happens to him. Jacoby Brissett goes back in there, can prove himself, get back in for Sim's top 40. So here's a couple before we get to your number 10. Just a couple more here. I like this one, and I'm curious as to what you'll say. This comes from Noel. If you were to take prime playing age, you, and place yourself in this top 40, where would you rank yourself and why? So I'm going to look at 2005, the quarterbacks here in 2005. You're not going to put yourself 1 because there's Peyton Manning there. Tom Brady is in the league, had a pretty good year too.
Brett Favre's in the league.
Yeah. Matt Hasselbeck had a good year that year, ended up having, so maybe you don't put – so maybe you're 5 – are you in the 5 or 6 range I'm looking here?
You're an asshole, you know that? You really are. You know what? I'm going to go back and look at the damn league in 2005 as we sit here. No, I know I wasn't – like, are they asking where I was at that point in my prime or where I would be today right now if I was in my prime and put in there?
No, so at that point, at that point.
Oh.
So I say after that year. So I was looking at your quarterback rating. Your quarterback rating that year was 81, which was 19th in the league, just behind Steve McNair, ahead of Kerry Collins, ahead of Trent Dilfer, ahead of Eli Manning. So you were ahead of some of those guys with your quarterback rating. So you were 19th in quarterback rating. Where would you be in the Chris Sims top 40?
Realistically, and you know me, I don't ever look at quarterback rating and go, oh, that says it all right there. But I think that's about where I probably would have been at that point, somewhere in that range. Like, hey, Steve McNair's quarterback rating was below mine. He was better, so maybe I'm 20. I don't know. I know Steve McNair was better than me at that point. I do. The big thing is I would have compared myself.
Hold on. Yeah. Kelly Holcomb was 15 in quarterback rating, so maybe you're back to 19
now.
I
would say I'm better than him, so maybe you're right. I'm back up to 19. Thank you. But, the big thing is, how can I give a comparison? I feel like maybe I was like a Daniel Jones, right? In that little area there where you went, ooh, I see some good things, arrows pointing up. He could be in the top 10, dancing around that conversation next year. I had talent. I love to play. I love to work hard and try to be as good as I could at it. And, I had a chance. But, unfortunately, I got hit and life changed forever after that. But, I think realistically, that's probably somewhere where I was, like a guy that you're excited about, but I'm still not one of the staple best quarterbacks in football. Certainly not.
That's big, though. You cracked the top 20 in the Chris Sims top 40 quarterback countdown. I think that's a pretty big accomplishment.
Thank you. It's a big accomplishment to make your own top 40.
Okay, 2 more. This one comes from Maldonado Chapa, who says, leaving Gardner Minshew's jorts out of the top 5 best quarterbacks in shorts, ? And 5 is silent, had a similar comment saying, no issues with the top 40 rankings for Chris, but Gardner Minshew not being in the legs and ass conversation is borderline criminal. I will take full responsibility for that. I was leading the best quarterback in shorts conversation, and no, Gardner was not in the top 5. And quite honestly, I will stick with that. I will stick with my guns. I still don't believe that Gardner Minshew is a top 5 quarterback in shorts in the NFL. I just don't. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, not when you he does have a nice legs and butt. He does. He's got a little bit more than the normal quarterback, but I agree with you. He doesn't deserve to be in that conversation. Now, when you add in the jorts conversation, okay, then you start to go, hey, there's at least
one of
a
one.
theme.
He's one of one.
He's like, he's different. He's just cool that way. So we should have brought it up nonetheless. But I appreciate those questions and those comments from the homies there. Those are good ones.
Like we always say about the MVP conversation, he should have been in the conversation, right? He should have been in the conversation.
Yes.
There. Leaving him out of the conversation was a mistake, even though he was not in our top 5. Sorry, Gardner, if you're listening. All right, let's get into it. You ready? You ready, Chris?
You know it.
Number 10 in the Chris Sims top 40 quarterback countdown for the year 2020 is
Big Cam Newton, who's not on a team. It's odd to
oh
say that because usually I say a guy's name and say the team he plays for. But here I am talking about a top 10 quarterback who has no team right now, which is insane, right?
yeah. Yeah,
You know,
it really is
yeah.
because I mean, and Pete mentioned this real quick, and it's a good point. You've talked about how Brady and the Patriots moved on from Brady. If he was a top 10 quarterback, they wouldn't have done that. The Saints may be moving on from Drew Brees. If he was a top 10 quarterback, they wouldn't be doing that. It appears like the Carolina Panthers, and you agree here, maybe did move on from a top 10 quarterback. Certainly with some injury issues and some concerns there, but he's out there and available.
Well, yeah, he is. Now, listen, I think the first thing that's a really good question that you ask, and Pete, Dimalittle, I just want to know about, no doubt. It's a different scenario to me than New Orleans or New England. They didn't have a coaching regime change or anything like that. They were kind of a team that was like they're in the window kind of right now. I mean, I know New England's not as strong as they were, 2 or 3 years ago, but like I still think if Tom Brady was there, we'd be talking about New England a lot more and how they're a Super Bowl contender than we are right now. So yes, I think that's different than Cam Newton with Matt Rule coming in, trying to completely change the culture of a guy who had been there for a long, long time and has a serious footprint on that organization and Ron Rivera. And now, yes, if you're Matt Rule, he's coming in going, wait, I'm going to run a different offense. I got a different offensive coordinator here. It not necessarily suits Cam Newton exactly the way, you would want an offense to suit your superstar quarterback. And I don't think he wants any reminiscent of the old culture. He wants to make his stamp on the organization. He doesn't want the superstar quarterback in the locker room going, man, we used to do things like this. I wish we did that. Or the superstar quarterback coming and being a voice of the players and being like, hey, some of the vet players want to do this, this, and this because this is how we did it with Ron Rivera. And Matt Rule doesn't want to hear that shit. He doesn't want to hear it. There's no other way to put it. So I think between that, the injuries, certainly he might want more money here at some point in the near future. Right. I think that's the reason he left town. So, and also, you also got to think about this. This is also what coaches do. Coaches think about who's going to be their quarterback to start, sometimes to give themselves wiggle room at the start of their career. And I really think Matt Rule's got a guy here where if he had Cam Newton and it failed out of the gates, people would be like, what? You can't win with Cam Newton and what's going on and blah, 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 blah. Now, with the Teddy Bridgewater, if it doesn't work the first year or two, he's going to be able to say, oh, well, I thought I could make Teddy Bridgewater work. I liked what I saw in New Orleans. Oh, but it wasn't really my guy. And then he buys himself more time to either get a free agent or draft a quarterback or whatever it may be. So I think those are the factors that lead into the fact of Cam Newton not being there. And now why he's on the street, Ahmed, you know this reason. We've talked about this. He's so good and talented and threatening that no team wants to bring Cam Newton in to be the backup. He's going to threaten almost every quarterback in football except the elite superstars. Because we've had this discussion. When you come off the practice field, the team and the coaches are going to come in going, damn, did you see Cam Newton throwing lasers around there today? Did you see Cam Newton break out and run away from our middle linebacker? Did you see, it's just going to be constant one after another, and that's going to cause division in the locker room and doubt on who should be the starting quarterback. And that's why he's on the street. The guy's talented, and I know he's been injured. I've seen enough on social media, and he's 31 years old, and it's 2020 that I go, he's going to be fine. It's not like career ending. He's got a lot of years ahead of him. He's going to be able to play to 37, 38, maybe 40, depending on how it all goes. But, yes, I'm still a huge believer in Cam Newton.
So this is what I was going to ask you, and you kind of touched on it there. You're making this list for 2020, a quarterback for this 2020 season.
I know. Yep.
You're not making this a contingent that he's healthy. You're saying that from what you've seen and what you believe to be true, that if you had a draft right now and he was on the board and Kyler Murray was still there on the board and Drew Brees was on the board and Tom Brady, despite the concerns with the injury, you would take Cam Newton right now, it's not contingent if he's healthy or not. From what you think right now, you would take him over those guys.
Yeah, and yes, I do. I mean, I know the health thing is a question, but
But
I've
you think he's
seen.
healthy.
I do. By the way he moved around in that social media video about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and he was dropping back and moving and really aggressively planting and throwing balls. We saw what he did with Odell Beckham Jr. earlier this week. Those things right there just go, oh, no, the guy's good. He's hitting on all cylinders. Yes, and, hey, is there a little concern there? Okay, sure, yes, but I would take him over those guys. I am going into this 2020 season thinking he will be healthy. He's still special. Stats will never tell the whole story on a Cam Newton. The pressure and what he does to make a defenses adjust and have to play a certain way because of his special skill set. He has a big-time arm. He's learned to play quarterback more and more, I think, the last few years. I think that's what's really the shame of the situation. Before he hurt his shoulder in 2018, I was sitting there going, damn, Cam Newton's he's not just like playing on raw ability now. He's getting into the nuances of the position. It was really exciting. I was sitting there going, man, I think Carolina could be a big pain in the butt and get in the playoffs and maybe be a Super Bowl contender. And then, of course, he hurt his shoulder and he was never the same and the team fell apart. But, yeah, between his ability to run, his toughness and fearlessness in the pocket, the fact that he has become a better decision maker, he makes you defend every square inch of the field like I've talked about. And he's gotten over, I thought, the greediness of which he used to have, where he used to sit back there and pat the ball. And you'd be like, hey, man, come on, the guy 40 yards downfield, he's not going to get open. Don't keep patting. I think it's going to happen. Get it out of your hand. Move on. We'll try to get somebody open deep the next play. I thought he turned the corner in that stuff too, which was really his biggest negative. So, yes, I'm a believer in Cam Newton. I understand the questions about it, but it's my list, and I feel like this is where he'll be at, come 2020.
So then part of the questions, part of the rumblings out there, Chris, is that he wants to be the starter. He doesn't want to go into a backup situation. He wants to be paid like a starter too. And I thought it was interesting recently, Matt Hasselbeck, who's now come up twice in this podcast, said, he quote, if I'm Cam Newton, I am not signing anything less than Phillip Rivers' deal, which is 1 year, $25 million. And teams reportedly have been a little scared away by the Cam Newton asking price. That's what we're hearing out there. We don't know if that's necessarily true. But Matt thinks he deserves that same deal that Phillip got. What do you think?
Well, that's because Matt's trying to say the same thing that I'm saying. I love Matt Hasselbeck, first off. He's one of my favorite people on TV, breaking the game down, and he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in my lifetime in the NFL. But I think he's trying to say, there's no way this guy right here, the MVP of football 4 years ago, should not be on a team, nor should he accept, any less than a guy like Phillip Rivers, who's been playing and proven, because he's every bit as good as him, if not better, which I think he's saying he's better, like me, and that's why he's saying that. So, I mean, Matt's right. But the crazy thing is, Ahmed, other than Jacksonville, I don't know where he goes. There's not a situation that I look at and go, that makes sense. It doesn't. There's teams that have starters who are entrenched, and then there's all these teams who have these young quarterbacks who are going into year 2 or 3 where they're going, wait, this is the year we find out if our guy is the superstar in the franchise. So they don't want to disrupt that and bring Cam Newton in either. So really, really rare set of circumstances here that we're talking about. What I look at, of course, is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in football. He might not be on a team until somebody gets hurt. I really think that's what might happen here.
That was a question from Dave's a Ninja. He said that Cam has made your top 10, would arguably make a lot of other top 10 on ability, but there's where's he actually going to play? Starting to feel like his only way back is either a Winston as a backup or if someone gets hurt. And I almost feel like I was thinking about, the injury is is he going to have to wait for an injury with one of these quarterbacks? But we've seen this a lot in the NFL where teams aren't necessarily comfortable to go outside of the organization, even with an injury. They feel like, all right, here's the backup quarterback. He's not as good as Cam Newton, but at least he's been with us all year. He kind of knows the system. The players like him and know him. They want to see him get his shot. And so I'm not even convinced that an injury gets Cam Newton into the league. I don't know. Maybe you think differently.
Well, I think your point's real. That is a very real point most times. I think it's a little different when there's going to be a caliber player like Cam Newton on the street. That's going to be different than years past, where, yeah, like more years than not, if there's not that like real superstar guy on the street or whatever, Ahmed, you're spot on. That's how teams think. That's the MO. That's what they want to. Oh, he's been here. He knows the guys. He knows the system. He's worked hard. Let's let him go out and see what he can do. We put him as our backup for a reason. But in a lot of those cases, a guy like Cam Newton was not sitting at home ready to go. Right. And as we've seen, I mean, he was throwing dimes, it looked like to me, with Odell Beckham Jr. the other day. So he's really ready to go. Plus, we know this is a guy who wants to be great. He's highly motivated, and he's going to have a chip on his shoulder with this shit that's going on. So from all those reasons, I would just say, watch out. If Cam Newton gets on a team and somebody gets injured, I would think he's going to be really on his A game.
So final point, where could he end up going? FanDuel's got the favorites out there. Washington is currently number 1. I like them too. I mean, go out there, compete with Dwayne Haskins. If Dwayne Haskins beats him out at some point or outperforms him, then good. You got a great problem to have there. You got Ron Rivera in Washington now. Pittsburgh 2, Denver 3. I don't know about that. It seems like Drew Lock had whole lot of success. I don't know if you mess with that in Denver.
Yeah.
New England has been very popular. They are very confident, as you have noted, and you're very confident in Jarrett Stidham. Seattle, that would have to be as a backup deal. Chicago makes a lot of sense. Seems like that should have happened before Nick Foles went there.
Yeah, it should have happened.
And then Jacksonville. Right. And then Jacksonville is the last one on the list here. Chris.
Yeah, well, and that's an interesting thing. First off, like you're thinking about Washington. Yeah, they're one of those teams that's stuck with a young quarterback that they want to develop, right? So they're hoping he can be something. I don't think no matter – and I think Dwayne Haskins has a bright future. There's a lot to be excited about. But I don't think there's any way he could outshine a guy like Cam Newton right now. So they would have to know that. Cam Newton's going to come in and beat Dwayne Haskins. He's going to beat him out.
Good. I mean, it's like it's such a short window in football. It's like win now because tomorrow's not guaranteed.
You're exactly right. I don't know though. I mean, they drafted Haskins in the top 20, and I'm sure they want to see this through to see if he can be something special and a guy that can lead them to the promised land at one point. Pittsburgh makes sense to me. I mean, it does. Now, I don't know if Big Ben will be cool with that. He might be a little bit bothered by that. But, hey, I'll say this, I think if Big Ben got hurt early on in the year, they won't hesitate this time. They're going to call Cam Newton. I do think that would be a very real thing. And then, you made the point. To me, Chicago should have been in the Cam Newton conversation from the get-go, and Jacksonville should have signed him, 8 weeks ago. But here we are now, and I don't know where it's going to happen. I got no crystal ball, no idea. I don't know what the hell's going to happen with Cam Newton.
Yeah. Before we move on to number 9, we've looked into our crystal ball and we've looked into the future. We have a shot of what Cam would look like in a Steelers uniform. If you're watching on
Looks
YouTube,
good.
He's mic'd up there. He's got the Gatorade towel over his head. His hair looks awesome as always. Yeah, that makes sense, Chris. That looks good.
Yeah, it looks like it's Big Ben's body with Cam in there, but you can't tell with the shoulder pads. Little different body type, but yes. It's certainly, I mean, it would. We'll see. I don't know. This is amazing that we're talking about this, but I would feel like Big Ben would be confident enough in his role and his place in Pittsburgh Steelers history. And then I think with Mike Tomlin and everything else, they could handle a guy like Cam Newton to come in and be the backup if they felt like, hey, Big Ben, we're not so sure he's going to make it through the year this year, or whatever it may be. I do look at that as a situation that it could work, but I don't know Big Ben that way, and maybe he wouldn't be cool with that. Maybe Pittsburgh knows that, and they just don't want to deal with it.
Number 10, Cam Newton in your top 40, still looking for a team. I'd like to see him play on some team in 2020. Number 9, I was excited about 10. I'm super excited about number 9 here. Number 9 on your list, Chris.
We're going to your hometown, baby. Matthew Stafford will be my number 9 quarterback going into the 2020 season. I mean, where do you want to start with Matt Stafford? First off, disrespected, throughout his career, drives me crazy. One of the greatest arms and throwers in the history of the sport. Doesn't get a lot of credit for that because he's in the division with the guy with the greatest arm in the history of the sport, in my opinion, and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, maybe Patrick Mahomes will trump that at some point too, but right now he's the greatest thrower I've ever seen, let alone a career of a limited supporting cast around him. But I know he only played half the year in 2019. And listen, people might go again, oh, is there injury concerns? No, there's not to me. Not at his age right now. No, I'm not going, oh. But guys like Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers are going to get hurt in certain years because they're the team. So when you always have to play near the edge and I got to break a tackle and throw a 30-yard laser and make 7 people miss in the pocket, they don't have the luxury of a Tom Brady or a Drew Brees and a McDaniels and Sean Payton offense where they go, oh, man, I'll just take a sack. We'll get somebody open the next play. Matt Stafford a lot of times is like, man, there hasn't been anybody open in 7 plays. I got to make this throw here and get this to them. And they leave themselves in harm's way. That's what happens. But Stafford, I thought, in 2019, Ahmed, adjusted to the new playing style in Detroit with Matt Patricia. In 2018, I was concerned. It was the worst year I ever thought I saw him play in his career, Matthew Stafford. He missed throws. He looked out of place. He didn't look comfortable. He made some stupid decisions. And I think that was because they changed the style in which they played in. They started playing like a style of the 2002 New England Patriots played. And he was used to being, I'm just used to being in the shotgun and I got to score 40 points for the Lions to win. And that's what I'm used to. I don't have a governor or anybody micromanaging me. Well, he got there with Matt Patricia, and Matt Patricia said, sorry, you're not the sheriff here. I am, and we're going to play this way. And he had a tough time adjusting. But in 2019, he was out of this world good. Out of this world good in another offense that I would say was not quarterback friendly, really wanted to run the ball first. And then, yes, I know he has Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones there at wide receiver, Ahmed. But those are like number 2s. They're both real good number 2s. I don't think anybody would sign either one of them and go, oh, we got our superstar number 1 receiver, take over the game guy. No, they're not that type. They're really good, and I like them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that. But I just think Matthew Stafford, from what I saw last year, the throws, the leaderships, the decisions, his subtle movements in the pocket, he's not always going to scare you running, but he's great at just like, oh, I got a little pressure, and he walks up this way and just throws like a 20-yard laser down the middle of the field. He makes so many freaking plays, Ahmed, and throws that change the game, and I go, wow, it's just unbelievable. It's just they don't always capitalize because they're not a great team up there in Detroit.
Yeah, he is so fun to watch, and I've talked about him on this podcast many times. My second favorite player in NFL history behind Barry Sanders, the great number 20, because of those things, because he's just got the ability, he's got the arm strength, he's got the creativity, and he's won a lot of games late. You mentioned the numbers last year. We saw the graphic of how good he was when he played in those first 8 games. He was on pace to throw for over 5,000 yards, throw 38 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He was on pace to have the best year numbers-wise of his career. And
it looked like
the offense doesn't necessarily give him huge opportunities all the time, but they did throw the ball with Darrell Bevell down the field more.
They did.
It gave him that opportunity to throw the ball down the field, and that's something that he does really well, and we saw it again last year.
It is. It's his bread and butter. And you're right. That they did. They gave him more opportunities off the play action pass and things like that to cut it loose, and especially Kerryon Johnson was in and out of the lineup and things like that. So they needed Stafford to make those type of throws to help them win football games. But hey, again, it's not an offense that's built right now to win shootouts. And their defense stunk last year and was constantly letting up yards and points to other teams. And there he was trying to have to play and keep up that way, but not playing like a spread out, we're going to shoot it out type offense. And then, of course, there's no run game to talk about in Detroit. So, again, I think, Matthew Stafford, I'm glad you say that. I know you're a fan. I'm a huge fan, too. He's going to be one of these guys that'll be underappreciated forever in the lures of the NFL. And I just want to go, he's a victim of his own greatness in a lot of ways. Never had a good offensive line. He's had, 2,000-yard rushers? Did he have one Reggie Bush early in his career? Just one? Kerryon Johnson 2 years ago? So
it was just Reggie Bush.
Oh,
2013.
That was it.
And he just barely had it. 1,006 yards for Reggie Bush. Yeah, some of the running backs he's had, Joik Bell, Kevin Smith, Javid Best, Amir Abdullah's got Kerryon Johnson now. So what do you think? Do you think that running game, because if they had a running game, that would seriously help Matthew Stafford, obviously. They drafted DeAndre Swift, who you were not as high on as some people out there. Also in the 5th round, they got an intriguing running back out of New Mexico State, Jason Huntley, who's kind of a small guy, ran a 4.37 40 at his pro day.
Jitterbug type guy.
Fastest of any of the running backs at the combine. So, I mean, do you have hopes that they might be able to give Matthew Stafford a running game this year?
I do. Well, the one thing I've liked, at least they're starting to build something there in the Matt Patricia era. Like, they've made it a point of pride to have an offensive line and play a little bit more of a physical brand of football. And I think Kerryon Johnson is an awesome, big-time running back. But last year he was hurt. And then they had a hard time finding a guy that could, do the things that he could do. And, of course, they're running that Darrell Bevell, Matt Patricia type way of football where we talked about they want to run the ball first. So when you want to run the ball first, and now you don't have, really a marquee running back to give the ball to, they ended up having to give the ball to Bo Scarborough most of the time. That hurt the way they wanted to play football. So I do think there's enough there. It's going in the right direction. And the big thing to me, too, is T.J. Hockenson. Because I think he could be a superstar. I saw enough from him last year to go, whoa, he could be Travis Kelce, George Kittle, maybe more towards a George Kittle. Yeah, because he's a good blocker, too.
I think a lot of people saw TJ play and they thought he underwhelmed last year. You didn't see that.
I did not at all. Now, again, he had that bad concussion and then had some underwhelming quarterback play to where I'd go, we could bring out, Rob Gronkowski out of retirement. He wouldn't have killed it last year at tight end for the Detroit Lions. Matt Stafford to me is been carrying that organization his whole career, has a little bit of the LeBron James factor going on where he's a victim of his own greatness, where he's made his team just get in the playoffs or be in the playoff conversation and they don't get in and we go, Matt Stafford can't win a playoff game or they couldn't get to the playoffs. And I want to go, they would be 3-13 if it wasn't for Matt Stafford. He's the reason they're 9-7 and in the conversation or squeaked in the playoffs. He was a lot of the years one of only 5 or 6 guys where I had to go, these 5 or 6 guys, the only things that could have made Detroit work and made them competitive or made them get to the playoffs. So I think that's where people miss out sometimes. And I'm expecting a big time year for Matt Stafford. And if it's not, we might see an organizational move from him too, to where they might just go, okay, we're going to get new coaches in here. We're just going to get a fresh new look. And maybe Matt Stafford ends up somewhere else. So I think this is a big year for Patricia and Matt Stafford that way.
Drewish guy tweeted us saying, I think Jimmy G has room to grow, and the Lions aren't going anywhere soon. Jimmy G plus a 2nd-round pick for Matt Stafford. Who says no and why? I say no because I like Matt Stafford so much. But what do you think?
I would say yes.
That would make sense. You would?
I would. Yeah, I would. I mean, if my buddy Kyle Shanahan told me, hey, the Detroit Lions are saying they'll trade Garoppolo for Stafford and I got to give a 2nd-round pick, I would do it. I would. Stafford would be scary in the Kyle Shanahan offense, I think. Scary. I mean, that's to me the frustrating thing sometimes. Sometimes with these really great offensive minds, we never seem to get them matched up with the really great physically gifted quarterbacks.
Right.
And that convolutes the conversation to where then we go, the quarterback's not that good. And then we have the quarterback that's not that good with the great coach. We go, he's great. And I want to go, no, it's the opposite. It's just one guy has a great coach who gets people wide open. I mean, we know. Intended pass yards or intended air yards by Jimmy Garoppolo, short passes, one of the league leaders in football. Why? Because Shanahan's the master manipulator of the second level of defenses and getting people wide open. So, I would do it. Sorry. Yeah.
And Stafford's at the total opposite end of the conversation. He is among the league leaders last year, at least he was, in the yards thrown downfield, intended air yards.
Exactly.
In the offense with the Lions. So then I'm asking for a 1st-round pick. If you would easily do that deal for a 2nd-round pick, I'm asking for a first to see if you'll still do
the price went up.
Okay, that's Matthew Stafford at number 9. Let's go to number 8. Number 8 on the Chris Sims top 40 quarterback countdown.
Number 8, we're going to Texas, baby. We're going to Dak Prescott, number 8 quarterback in the Chris Sims top 40 quarterback countdown. Yeah, Dak Prescott, I mean, brings it all to the table to me, Ahmed. I mean, leadership, toughness, sure. I love that aspect of him. Okay, and that's where, him and Matt Stafford, I had really close. Okay, but I give Dak Prescott the advantage because of some of that, of what he brings to that football team. There is somewhat of an edge he brings. All right, I know that. I've been around him, but I've also been told that. Let alone his ability to run and the quarterback design runs. And then again, this is one of the best deep ball throwers in football too. And don't think he quite gets the credit he does for making off-schedule plays and throws. Everybody looks at the Dallas Cowboys and just goes, well, they have talent. That's easy. Yeah, they have talent, but, as that year went on last year, Amari Cooper was banged up. Ezekiel Elliott wasn't to his best. And the offense started to kind of stall in creativity and things like that, to where I want to go, yeah, he's got some talent around him, but they weren't like serving it up on a silver platter for him. He was still, the one thing I went back and watched again is just the runs and the plays he makes, again, to where I don't want to say scramble, but step up in the pocket, start to run and take 2 steps to the right and throw a ball 20 yards down the sideline perfectly to a receiver, whatever. There's so many of those plays that even I forgot as I started to dig back through this. And yeah, to me, Dak Prescott has it all. He's a franchise quarterback. He deserves to be paid in a big way. If there's a negative to him, he's got a technical flaw, Ahmed, sometimes, where his front leg locks out his left knee, and it causes him to go way over the top of the ball, and sometimes can make him throw a nosedive or even a ball high to where he can be a little errant. And I've talked about that with him. But when he fixes that, he's one of the more pure throwers in the NFL.
He was 13th on your list last year. He moved up 5 spots here to 8. He started every game of his career, 4th-round pick out of Mississippi State. He's got 4 years in the league, 64 games started. And he did take a big jump numbers-wise last year. Of course, they threw the ball more last year, but he threw for 4,900 yards. First 3 years in the league, he averaged 3,600 yards, had 22 touchdowns the first 3 years average. Last year had 30. So they trusted him more. Kellen Moore will be back as the offensive coordinator. He stays on with the coaching change with Mike McCarthy. What do you think they could do more? Because now he has CeeDee Lamb, who was your number 1 receiver, right, in the draft class of 2020. Right. So they got CeeDee Lamb. They got another year with Kellen Moore. I feel like numbers-wise, he could take another jump this year.
He could, and I don't, as you know, I don't care necessarily about the numbers and all that. I mean, but I think he could take a jump maybe in more game-changing type plays, because I think the offense could deliver for him that way a little bit more. One of my big issues was just the way the game was managed and run on the offensive side of the ball more times than not was the frustrating thing to me about the Dallas Cowboys. There'd be weeks where I'd go, wait, it's the first drive of the game. They've opened up these huge holes in the run game, and all of a sudden they pass the ball for 15 plays in a row. And then there'd be another week where, they'd come out and they can't run the ball at all, and that's the game they decide they're going to stay with the run and we're going to keep going. And so there was a lot of issues as far as how the game was managed and coached to me with the Dallas Cowboys that I think Mike McCarthy is going to straighten out. I've not always loved Mike McCarthy's offensive creativity, but the one thing I'll always say is his teams had a plan of attack and how they wanted to win games with the Green Bay Packers. And I think that's where he'll tie it all together with, I want my defense to play this way because my offense is going to play this way. And within my offense, I wanted us to do this, and then we'll work this part of this off of that. I think he'll have a little bit more of a concise plan, where Dallas, I feel like the last few years, is just going, we're talented, we're studs, we're just going to go out there and beat you. Motion? We don't need motion. Changing formations? We don't need that. We're Dallas. We're physically better than you. Same thing on defense. And I think he's going to get more of a schematical advantage that way this year.
Yeah, and the big question for Dak and the Cowboys this offseason are when are they going to lock him up? When are they going to make him the franchise quarterback that he clearly is at this point? And the reports that you hear out there, Chris, is that they don't deny that. They don't deny the fact that Dak Prescott's really good. They love Dak Prescott. It doesn't seem like a situation where Dallas is questioning whether he can be a guy that carries the team. They think he can. Now, should he be the number one paid quarterback in all of the NFL? I think that's probably the question that the agent and the team are batting back and forth.
Right. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. From everything I know, and listen, I've heard I pissed off Dak Prescott's agent by one of my, things I said on the show a few weeks ago and on PFT, and it caught a little traction on social media. I didn't tweet it out or whatever, but yeah, from what I know, there's a lot of discrepancies on whether a fifth year should be added to the contract, and if there is a fifth year, what that price should be. I think Dallas is every bit, like you said, willing to make him one of the highest paid players in the NFL. But to me, again, I wish that would stop altogether. And I hope that Dak Prescott doesn't hold Dallas Cowboys' feet over the fire for every last penny he can get. I don't think it'll serve him well in the end. Again, we're seeing a lot of quarterbacks on rookie contracts. Of course, Tom Brady. These are all great examples of they took less to have a team around them, and it works out for success. And I'm just saying, what I always say is, Dak Prescott, if it's all over and you have 175 million in the bank or 155 million in the bank, you're gonna be fine. It's not gonna change life. Maybe you can't get diamond encrusted toilet seats, but you just have to settle with the gold encrusted ones. Okay. So that's where I hope they can get over that last landmark or issue they're having.
And what I'll say here too is that for whatever reason, you took a lot of heat for saying that Dak was being offered a whole lot of money and wanted a shorter deal, 4 years instead of maybe the 5-year deal. You took some heat for that. Some people said you were wrong. And then those same people went out and basically reiterated what you said, is that it's a dispute over contract length. And of course, they're looking at a contract that's worth millions and hundreds of millions of dollars and perhaps puts them in the top echelon of quarterbacks to ever play the game. Why wouldn't you do that as a player and agent? So I got heated when you took the heat for that, because basically you were saying what is the obvious that everyone knows, is that they're looking to break the bank with a huge deal. And why wouldn't you as a franchise quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys?
Oh yeah, no, I know. I think I pissed everybody off is I said that I was being told he was offered 5 years, 175, but he wanted a little extra money on that fifth year to make it 185 because he thinks the quarterback market will move in a certain way. The person that told me that has never steered me wrong ever in my history. But yeah, I was told that pissed some people off in Dak Prescott's camp and all that. And yeah, I think some other insiders attacked me on social media because his agent got to them and told them to try to shoot mine down. But nobody ever really shot me down with any facts. And hey, I'll just let you know, if Dak Prescott's contract's anywhere near what the numbers I said, they're all going to hear from me. All of them. Because I don't think Dallas is going to go, oh, wait, you wanted 150? We'll give you 175. No. So if it's anything close to that, his agent, Ian Rappaport, who specifically texted me and I'm friends with, he's going to get it back. There's nothing I can say about that. That's just how it's going to go.
Ian did say in his tweet, the report was definitely not true from you, and the two sides have never discussed such scenarios or anything like that, which it begs the question, what have they been talking about? Cakes, fixing cars, like what they
right.
have not discussed anything like a long contract for their quarterback. That seems like they should probably get to that because the deadline is July 15th. So real quick, Pete threw this in my ear. There are some Dallas Cowboy fans that are fed up with the contract negotiation. It happens all the time. And they're like, just go with Andy Dalton. We can probably be just as good or dang near close with Andy Dalton and save some money.
No, negative. Dak Prescott, first off, is better at every level than Andy Dalton. He's way better off schedule when things aren't going good. He can make plays by himself. He's a way better downfield aggressive thrower. He's clutcher in big moments. And then Dak Prescott's skill set, again, you can't quantify this with numbers. He does put pressure on defense to have to play certain defenses at times because, hey, there is enough of a threat of him running quarterback design runs. I saw it, watching tape back last night to just give me ideas of what to say. I mean, there's a handful of really great runs during the year that are designed for him, which handcuff a defense and which they can play. They're not going to have to worry about any of that crap if Andy Dalton's there, let alone he doesn't have the talent and the toughness and the physical ability that Dak Prescott has. So, I like Andy Dalton. I know he's number 27, but he ain't Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm. And even with the money saved, probably would not be worth it for the Dallas Cowboys. So Dak Prescott.
Think so. I mean, if Jerry Jones wants to win a Super Bowl before he dies, then that ain't going to be the way that happens. Right. Sorry.
Dak Prescott, number 8. No, Dak Prescott, number 8 on your top 40 list. We're going to number 7. Who is that, Chris?
That is Matty Ice. Matt Ryan, Atlanta Falcons, number 7 quarterback in my countdown. I mean, Matt Ryan's got such a great blend of things going on. First off, he's that precision dissection passer, right, that Tom Brady and Drew Brees are. He really is that way. It's not a huge arm. I would say it's below NFL average, really, out of the starting quarterbacks. And I think people might be shocked to hear that. Like, his arm is not as good as Tom Brady's is at 43. There's a lot of quarterbacks with better arms than Matt Ryan. But between his experience, his ability to dissect defenses like a Brady and a Brees, being able to handle all that stuff mentally, and then really being able to read and react to defenses and make quick decisions with big-time throws is awesome. But where I give him a better advantage of, or give him, more respect than maybe what we call those quarterbacks who need a little bit of a system or precision passers and don't always argue with great physical ability, where he's different than them is Matt Ryan, is scary good running around the pocket and making plays when things break down. Their offensive line has stunk the last 2 years. I mean, stunk. I would really argue the last few years, I'm more impressed with the way Matt Ryan's played the last few years than I am in 2016 when he's the MVP of football. That was a year where Kyle Shanahan, like we were talking about, was just serving up silver platter throws. Like, hey, there's a guy wide open down the middle of the field, 40-yard gain. If you could just put it anywhere near him, it's a 40-yard gain. It'll look good for your quarterback rating. Well, there haven't been people open like that since Kyle Shanahan left. And Matt Ryan has had to really raise his game and make more happen with his anticipation, his knowledge of defenses. And then even though it's not pretty and sexy, Ahmed, he really moves around a lot more than Dak Prescott. When I really went back and started writing notes, I went, Matt Ryan, he doesn't flat out run, but he scrambles around the pocket more than a Dak Prescott and makes so many damn good throws with people around him, and there's Julio Jones and people around him, and there's Austin Hooper, and he hasn't had a run game to help him. He's had none of that the last 2 years. I mean, really, it's been, hey, the defense is devastated with injuries. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, can you guys score 35 or 40? If you can, we can win. If you can't, we're not going to win. And that's not fair and that's not realistic, but Matt Ryan's still been playing phenomenal football.
So that whole team started off so poorly, 1-6. Then he had a high ankle sprain, missed a week, came back, and then they won 6 games, went 6-2. He didn't necessarily light the world on fire in those games when he came back. 11 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And I will say, he just turned 35, or he will turn 35, I think. He's close to it. Going to be his 13th year in the league. You do start to knock Brady and Brees for getting up there in age, perhaps losing a little bit of some of their talent. His quarterback rating, which I know you don't necessarily go by, but in 2018 it was 108. Last year it dropped to 92. Not the end-all be-all, but the performance was not there for Matt Ryan. He turned a year older. He stayed the same on your list. 7th last year, 7th this year. Not surprised he's still high up on your list. I am surprised you didn't knock him maybe 1 or 2 or 3 spots just for some of the same reasons that you maybe knocked Brees and Brady.
Yeah, I hear you, but I think more than what I looked away from, more than anything, Ahmed, is just, again, a thing that no grading scale can look at. There was just less easy completions and plays and things there to be had compared to Breeze and Brady. So much of Atlanta's success was just predicated on, hey, Matty Ice, can you get it done? Can you make the throw with people in your face, around you, in the trash, all of that? Really special that way. So, I know. And then listen, I'm not too big into like, oh, last year I had him here. And so this year I have to
Yeah.
move him up. I really just look at it as like, hey, this is what it is. I try to wipe out history and I'm just thinking about moving forward. And I think just between the way I saw Matt Ryan play last year and yeah, I know he's in that age where you start to go, ooh, it's probably going to start going downhill. And it is probably because I see it in his arm a little bit, but not enough for me to go, oh, no. Makes way more big throws than Drew Brees. He's definitely makes more plays and is tougher in the pocket than Brady right now. Like I said, Brady's arm is still special. Brady can make throws that Matt Ryan can't. He's just reluctant to maybe take the punishment for what might have to happen to make some of those throws. And that's where Matt Ryan separates himself. And, Ahmed, come on. Nobody even wants to sign Devontae Freeman. Nobody. They got nothing. They've had nothing in running back. They drafted 2 linemen in 2 drafts ago in the first round. One of them got hurt last year. They've had shit in front of them, let alone a defense that's been devastated with injury and also been shit. So it's hard to make it all happen with that supporting cast, but I'm still a fan of Matt Ryan and what he does. But you're right. It's getting close to where I go, ooh, will the skills decline this much or how much will the skills decline this year at 35? Will he drop 5, 6 spots? I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but I feel pretty confident that he's going to have a good year.
And of course, he brings other things to that team as well. He's got the intangibles. He has been a team leader for them. He got them together for 9 weeks during this whole coronavirus pandemic just to try to work out some of the new teammates, stay in contact with the old teammates. So he has been super active in keeping that team together and on schedule. And I was looking at this too, and Football Reference has this thing called approximate value where it's kind of like WAR in baseball where you just try to quantify how valuable a player is. And so I looked at approximate value all time for quarterbacks with 200 games or fewer started. And Matt Ryan is in that category. Aaron Rodgers is number 1. Matt Ryan is number 2. Steve Young, 3. Joe Montana, 4. Dan Fouts, 5. And it got me thinking, I was like, man, I don't know that we often bring up Matt Ryan's name in Hall of Fame. Maybe they're having the discussion. I'm just not there for it. But that's like Hall of Fame type names that you're with. They're all in the Hall of Fame or will be. Matt Ryan's probably a Hall of Famer when this is all said and done.
He's definitely going to be, yeah. I think, he's missing maybe one more big playoff run, something like that. And I think that probably would solidify him as a Hall of Famer. But, hey, from the day he's got there, they've been a relevant franchise in the NFL. They're always competitive. He's got a nickname Matty Ice for a reason because he's pretty damn clutch when they're down or need a big drive in the fourth quarter. He delivers. And he can deliver a lot of different ways. If his offense delivers for him, he can mentally and with his accuracy and pinpoint ability to throw there, he can dissect you that way. But when the offense doesn't deliver, like we've seen the last few years, he still just makes so many plays, and he's special to me that way. And that's an interesting stat. Listen, I don't think he's in the class of Aaron Rodgers to me. Who'd you say? So go through that list one more time. Let me hear that one more time. Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, and then go through it. Steve Young,
Joe Montana, Dan Fouts, all quarterbacks with a 200 games started or fewer. That's the approximate value according to Football Reference. It's a good group to be a part of.
What is the formula they use there as far as like do you have any baseline?
Great question.
Nothing.
I trust them. I trust them with my heart. I really don't know. But of those guys though, of all the quarterbacks in NFL history with 200 games started or fewer, he's got the most passing yards, second most touchdowns to Rodgers, 5th highest completion percentage. So he's accurate. He's throwing the ball downfield. He's throwing the ball a lot, but I mean, the stats are there for Matt Ryan.
They are.
But he's just last point, and I was thinking he just kind of he's not sexy, right? He's just a little, for
That's
whatever
it.
reason, he's just a little boring. And so I looked at the list of all-time, good quarterbacks. The most boring all-time good quarterbacks, I had Matt Ryan at 3. So I think he's fairly boring, but he's good. I had Vinny Testaverde at 2, long career, a lot of good numbers, won a couple playoff games only, kind of boring. But number 1, Dave Craig. Dave Craig, the most boring, decent quarterback of all time. I put all 3 of those guys together.
That's a good list. I like that. You're right. I mean, and I know what you mean by Matt Ryan, because there's not a sexiness or a flair to the way he throws. He doesn't look that cool running or doing anything like that. He's kind of gangly and all over the place. But I think the big thing too is for a big arm quarterback. You talk about some of his yards and stats and his ability to throw the deep ball. Not a big arm quarterback, but because he's so smart and can read a defense and he's got anticipation, and then he's not scared, at least, where he does go, okay, I know I can't just launch at 60 yards, but this is something there to be had. Let me get it out of my hand now and see if I can't lead the guy 45 yards down the field. He's got great feel and aggressiveness that way, to where he doesn't leave a lot of big downfield throws, on the table when the game's all said and done. And that's rare for sometimes with a guy that, like I said, has a below average NFL arm, starting quarterback arm at least.
We'll let Pete have the final word. He texted us. Matt Ryan is at 51,000 yards. Marino is 5th all time at 61,000. Decent chance Ryan passes him. Of course, it's a different game a little bit. They throw the ball more now. Passing yards are up league wide, but still a great career so far. And it's not done for Matt Ryan, who's number 7 on your top 40 list. We got one more quarterback we're going to reveal today. That is number 6, and that person is...
We're going to Pennsylvania, okay? Carson Wentz, Philadelphia Eagles. The big soldier, number 11, Big Red. I mean, come on. Does anybody need to see anything else? I mean, I don't know. Did everybody
playoff
watch?
Success, maybe. Playoff
Well,
success.
yep, that's what we'd like to see. Okay, yes, you're right. But damn, they're not in the playoffs last year unless they have Carson Wentz at quarterback. That's really all I could say. Or maybe they have one of the 5 guys I got in front of them. But I mean, come on. I mean, Ahmed, you follow this game for a living and do it and watch this and do a stupid podcast with me every week. Like, it's hard to name the guys that were on the offense with Carson Wentz at skill positions last year. It's unbelievable. So first thing is, I don't even know where to begin. He's one of the 6 quarterbacks in football where I just go, you could put the squad on his back and he can carry you. No matter who's out there, what style of game you play, what kind of offense you're in, it doesn't matter. There was nobody at receiver to be scared of there last year. There was no run game to talk of. Okay, the defense had weeks of struggle. And once they got used to playing with this cast of characters and no names and how they wanted to play, I mean, he just said, get on my back. Oh, it's like the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James. He said, don't worry, I'll take over. And, first off, awesome arm, like explosive game-changing arm. Very accurate on short throws, intermediate throws, deep balls. Can throw the ball, sidearm, whatever you want. He can do it all that way. But then, like, in the pocket, he's as tough as there is in football. To me, it's one of his great strengths. It's also one of his weaknesses. Because at times you want to go, dude, just give it up. Give the play up. Take the sack, throw the ball away, save your body, do something like that. But he's always trying to make a miracle happen. And that's why he's fun to watch, too, because he could have 4 defensive linemen on his back, and all of a sudden he, pops out of there and throws the ball 30 yards downfield. And you're like, what? How the hell did he do that? He can run the ball. He's phenomenal when it's off schedule and nobody's open, and he's got to make a play and scramble and throw on the run. I mean, he's really special that way. So, yes, when I sit here and think about Carson Wentz, I think he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in football. I think he's only going upwards. And, I just hope they have enough support at the skill positions around him to where he could shut up some of the people out there and they could start to go, whoa, this is like truly a game changer guy that can do it almost all by himself.
Speaking to the weapons or lack of weapons, Pete has texted us a trivia question. Who was the Eagles' top rusher and top receiver in their division clinching Week 17 win at the Giants? Do you have any idea?
So top rusher and top receiver?
And receiver, yeah. Week 17, their division clinching win.
I'm going to say Wentz. Wentz is the top rusher, and I'm going to say Scott. I feel like the running back Scott caught a lot of passes out of the backfield in that game.
So Boston Scott was the leading rusher and receiver in that game where they clinched the division. Yeah. So you're right. I mean, and here's the unfortunate thing for Carson Wentz. They didn't do a whole lot to beef up the offense in the offseason. They got Jalen Reagor out of TCU. I don't think you're super high on him. Still got Zach Ertz, Miles Sanders in the backfield, but the weapons aren't that much better for Carson Wentz here in 2020. You're worried about them still?
I am. I'm worried about that. I'm just worried about, I like Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey. It's just, there's a little bit of an injury history there. And, for wide receivers, when you start to have lower leg injuries and things like that, I get worried. If they can stay healthy, I think they got enough, and then they don't need to rely on Jalen Reagor too much to see what he becomes. They got to rely on these tight ends, as we know, with Ertz and Goddard. That's a special group they have there. But, they need – that offense is a offense that has it all. Don't get me wrong. But again, I'm not going to sit there and go, oh my gosh, that Philadelphia Eagles offense, they do stuff on a weekly basis that just makes my mind blow. No, they're a little bit on aggressiveness. They find a formula that works within each game plan. And, they need the players, though. The players really help the scheme out in a lot of ways. And they didn't have a guy that could scare people deep or take the top off a defense or do anything like that. And I think Carson Wentz, it was hard on them. But last year, without a big-time running game, without a marquee wide receiver, and just Carson Wentz continued to deliver, week after week. And, I'll bring you back to the same point we kind of started the show with. I know Carson Wentz is, no playoffs and no playoff wins. First off, he should have been the MVP of football in 2017. He was the best player in football that year. He was the reason the Eagles were the number one seed going into the NFC playoffs. So, he got hurt. Does he need to protect his body? A little bit, certainly. But he's also goes into that conversation like I talked with Stafford and Aaron Rodgers a little bit. And this is where he got caught this year in the wild card game where he knew he had to push the limits of, danger if they were going to beat the Seattle Seahawks and Jadeveon Clowney and Russell Wilson. He wasn't going to be able to sit back there and go oh, nobody's open. I'll throw it away. We'll come back the next few downs. Hopefully we can get him. He had already learned his lesson that they weren't capable of winning that way. And they weren't going to beat the Seattle Seahawks. So that leads him again to my bigger point of, when you have to play quarterback on those type of teams, you get in harm's way because those guys are expected to make Houdini-type plays, and within that, they put themselves, in a glass box with a chain around it. No one can find the key every now and then they get hurt, right? That was my Houdini reference. You got that?
Yeah, I did get it. You don't make that very often in the.
I don't know where I came out of that. Pulled that out of my ass.
I feel like it's the first one in quarantine. So Chris Long has a podcast called the Green Light Podcast with Chris Long, and Michael Bennett was on it recently, and Devin McCourty were on it, and they had a little conversation, a little back and forth. And here I'll read you a bit of it. Long said, "I look at Carson Wentz's situation, someone I always knew had it in him. If you play with Carson, he is a good guy, but you don't know if he has the intestinal fortitude to be the first one to step over the line." And then Bennett interrupted him and said, "Nick Foles is better." And McCourty was laughing, said yes. So Michael Bennett, and you don't know the total context of it, but seemed to imply that Nick Foles is a better quarterback than Carson Wentz, at least maybe when he played with him for a few games. But what do you make of those words right there? Long saying that his leadership, his intestinal fortitude's a little on the iffy side, and Michael Bennett saying that Foles is better overall.
Well, I mean, of course, I don't believe what Michael Bennett said. There's just
Yes.
no way. I mean, yeah, no.
But people in
Again,
Philadelphia will say, though, that Foles won us that Super Bowl. We'd rather have Foles than Carson Wentz.
I
There might not be a
know.
lot of people, but there's some that say that.
I get it, but again, it just okay. He wasn't like special the 4 or 5 weeks before that. Yes, he won the NFC Championship game and made some big plays. I get that, but man, they squeaked by the Falcons in the divisional round. The last few games of the regular season, it was ugly. I mean, people were acting like that was smooth and he took over and just lit the world on fire. I mean, no, Philadelphia fan base was like, do we need to get another quarterback for the playoffs? Can we really actually win a game with Nick Foles? Like, people are forgetting that. So we're
Yeah.
all, and I fall in this too. And then, Devin McCourty, Michael Bennett. Come on, Michael Bennett's my, the playoff original superstar. I love him. But I do think even players can get caught up in the memory of the Super Bowl, and then you get caught up in the narrative around Carson Wentz, and that's not fair. There's just no way. They're not even in the same stratosphere, okay? I mean, Nick Foles, after he won the Super Bowl, he came in as the starter next year, and what happened? It was really average to below average quarterback play. So they gave it back to Carson Wentz, who was not even 100%, And then I know Carson Wentz and everything got them going on the right track. And then right as they started really coming together as a football team, he got hurt again. And Nick Foles got to be the guy that took advantage of that. It's harder to be in the Carson Wentz, carry the team, and I'll do it until the team catches up and we all look good, than, oh, hey, the team's looking good and all looking good. Now I can come in and play quarterback? That's an easy thing to do at times. I mean, or easier, I should say, than what my first example was. So,
Yeah.
no, I don't believe that. Now, Chris Long's point, though, it's real.
Yeah.
It is real. We've heard that more than one time. And that's something that sounds like Carson Wentz tried to correct last year, and we're going to have to see if he can continue to correct it here in the future.
That is interesting because you gotta have the whole package. Just talking about Matt Ryan, how he's been leading that team in the offseason, in a very weird offseason. Carson Wentz, does he have the ability to do certainly the same thing? Another thing I want to throw at you here on Carson is that they drafted Jalen Hurts, second round, 53rd overall. I think that raised some eyebrows. Just an interesting to pick to take a quarterback, maybe higher than some other teams had him. What do you think? Do you think Jalen Hurts can go in there and, in kind of the Taysom Hill vein, do anything that actually makes life easier for Carson Wentz? Is having Jalen Hurts on the team going to make life better for Carson anyway? Do you see that possible next year?
I do think so. Yeah, I do. I think it just can add another, like the one thing, like I said, Doug Peterson, he's one of those guys that said, I like the offense, right? I'm not going to put him in the top 5 offensive geniuses in football, but I think he's like that next group down of guys, right? Where I go, okay, yeah, they're not geniuses, but they're really awesome. And where I think Doug Peterson is special and makes his team special is, one, he's got great leadership skills. He's very real. He's easy to talk to, and he's got guts. He's not afraid to do and try different things. And I think, the team knows that and they rally behind that. And I think that's what he's doing here with Jalen Hurts. He's going to find some new ways and not be scared to throw Hurts out there at quarterback or at tailback and do some trickeration with a guy like Jalen Hurts. And yeah, they need him. They need another element of that offense to change it up. It can't always be Carson Wentz in his shotgun, just sitting there in the pocket, trying to, throw laser beams into, a below average cast of characters or wide receivers. Now, we think it'll be better this year with Alshon Jeffrey healthy and Deshaun Jackson. But yeah, I do think it'll help. I do. And, for all those out there that think that Jalen Hurts is there for a threat to Carson Wentz, no way. At least not in the first 2 years. I don't think it's ever going to come. But Jalen Hurts has a long way to go before he's the polished, ready to go NFL quarterback, in my opinion.
All right. We're through 10 through 6, Chris. And the next time you talk with Paulie B, It'll be your number 1 through 5, right?
It'll be my 1 through 5. It's coming up.
Ooh.
You
Ooh.
baby. Do you know what
Okay,
my
so
top 5 is yet? Do you know it?
I know the players. I think I probably know the order too.
You
I
think
think
you
you've
do?
alluded to it a few times, but I'm not going to say it. I don't
Where do you
think
think?
I'm not
Let's
going to
just
say it.
say this. I want your guess. Where do you think Aaron Rodgers will be?
I think Aaron Rodgers will be I think he'll be 2. I think he'll be 2 for you still.
Aha! I'll never tell. You'll have to wait
Oh
and
yeah, you will.
see.
You will tell
You're
Tuesday.
right. I'll tell Tuesday. You're right. I won't tell till then, though.
Yeah, but
Ahmed,
I just
I,
love. But even if I know where they are ranked, I like to hear your thought process and how they've made the next step from the previous year, and so I think that's all super informative as it was here. But before we go, Chris, real quick, this came from Corey on Twitter, who often hits me up, hits you up. CJ the Truth on Twitter, if you want to follow him. He goes, please talk Yanks for 5 minutes with Chris Sims. I might start asking for Liam McHugh to get back in the rotation. I love you, bro, but for a baseball fan, where's the talk on a supposed Yanks fans podcast? It's a legitimate question. It's a legit question. And if given the opportunity, I would talk a lot about baseball, Chris, but I'm also very mad at baseball right now because they can't get their act together.
I'm with you. I'm in the same boat as you. I know we both love baseball, and yeah, it is. They can't get their act together. It's pissing me off. The Yankees are my favorite sports franchise in all of sports. There's nobody more that I'm passionate about. When I go to the games and drink some beers, I'm like the guy in the crowd that's like telling people to get it up or here we go. It's a big pitch, and I'm
You can be a
talking shit
fan.
to the other teams. I'm a fan. I really am, and I love it. And it does. It's hurting me right now. And I know there's like, I want to know from you. I know there's like
Yeah.
blame to be put on both sides here,
Yeah.
but I just think from the optics, it doesn't look good for the players right now in baseball. But maybe you know more than I do about the situation.
Yeah, you can't say that anymore. Both sides, the guy who in the White House corrupted that term, so now you can't even say that. But I agree that they can't communicate. They can't communicate, and I think the ownership has been super hardline on this whole thing, and are worried about their pocketbook at a time when we're in a global pandemic where people are losing their lives and their jobs by the millions and hundreds of thousands. So I think that they've been totally out of touch with reality, and they're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about this as like a contract negotiation when times are good. Like, oh, business as usual. Here we go. This is how it always is. We got this little back and forth. And I think that's just totally missing the point
Agreed.
of the time that
Yes.
we're in 2020, and thinking that we're going to have the appetite of the back and forth of who's going to get the extra percentage of the pie. I don't see the big picture, and it's upsetting because you're right. I want to feel good about my favorite sport, and there's nothing to feel good about my favorite sport right now.
No, there's not. And, I think your point there is the real one is just that, like, come on. I mean, people who got no jobs, got no income right now. And it seems like we got baseball players that are mad that they're going to make $15 million instead of $25 million.
Yeah.
And that's just not a cool look right now. And to me, hey, again, this is a little bit where, hey, baseball, the players have too much power. Where in the NFL, I'd say the
Yeah.
owners have too much power. I'd like to see both of those leagues kind of meet in the middle somewhere a little bit. I think it would end up being a better league. But, I do think you're seeing – I think, the players in the NFL have more of an appetite for getting back to play right now than baseball, it seems to me. I don't know where this is going to go, and we'll see, but I don't know. And, yeah, it's not a good look for baseball. They know they have like a labor agreement thing coming up after this season was supposed
They
to be
do.
over.
Yeah,
So
in
that scares the
2021.
hell out of me too,
Yeah.
right?
And
And my
I
Yanks
get
are in
it,
the
right?
window. We're ready to win the World
They
Series for the
are.
next 80 years. I mean, we're going to go
And
on an
people
80-year run.
and people have said, is this if they actually do play a short season, and an expanded playoffs. Will the World Series champion be legitimate? And I saw a Yankee fan out there. Maybe it was your burner account that said, if the Yankees win the World Series, it's legitimate. If anyone else wins it, it's a farce. It doesn't even count.
That's a good way to put
Chris.
it.
I was like, that might be Chris out there. So hopefully they figure it out and get back together. My final point, it's like another instance where we ask more of kids than we do adults. You know how we always say, kids, go work it out. Hey, I know it might not be pleasant, but go work it out. And we expect that from kids. And for some reason, sometimes us adults, we feel like that we don't need to play by those same rules. Figure it out, baseball.
Seriously, figure it out. Me and Ahmed need something to watch on TV. Get your shit straight, all right? All right, that's it. Chris Sims, Unbuttoned Podcast. Ahmed, you the man. I mean, other than 2 buttons unbuttoned on your shirt, you were great today. I mean, handsome, good looking, great camera work. Way to go. Thanks a lot. I got to be daddy daycare. It's Charlotte's 14th birthday today, so I'm getting ready to have some family over for the birthday party. But we'll be back Tuesday without Ahmed. Paul Burmeister will be in here. We're going to do my last 5 quarterbacks on the quarterback countdown. And then Thursday, you're back, right, Ahmed? And that's where we're going to do big, I think, Ask Me Anything with everybody. And I'll let anybody dissect my countdown and maybe look back to where I feel like, I should have put this guy maybe 1 spot ahead of that guy, anything that I have that way. But have a good weekend, dude. You the man. Everybody out there, be safe. You the man, Ahmed. Peace.
Yo, what's up? Come on, man. Subscribe on YouTube to Chris Sims Unbuttoned Podcast. I need you. Please hit the subscribe button, please.